Hi everyone. Welcome to TE at 3D. In the video we will take a look at how we can create this portal from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness with lightning that interacts with your background. Let's get into it. At first I'm going to add a star shape for reference. Add a cylinder. Place the cylinder on the star's left flat wing. Scale it to match the width. Make it a bit thinner. Add bunch of loop cuts on the cylinder like 100 or so. Add a new collection. I'm going to name it crystal_blue. Add a icosphere. This is going to be our crystals. Decrease the subdivision to 1. And in edit mode pull the bottom vertex in to make it flat. Select the whole bottom and scale it in. Select the top and pull it up. Scale it in. That looks good for me. Add a material. Add a noise texture. Then add a bump node. Connect the noise color to the bump node's height. Duplicate that bump node. Connect the bump node's normal to the other bump node's normal. Connect the second bump node's normal to principal shader's normal. This will add a bit bump to our crystal. Change the noise scale to 1.7 and the detail to 15. Now let's add a few bigger bumps by duplicating the noise texture down. Connect the noise color to the second bump node's height. Set the noise scale to 7. Add a color ramp to control the contrast of the bump. I'm going to move the sliders closer to make the bump a bit more contrasted. Add a texture coordinate and connect the object with both of the noise vectors. Add the Voronoi texture and a displacement node. Connect the Voronoi distance to displacement's height and displacement to material output's displacement. Change the displacement scale to 0.1. Connect Voronoi vector to coordinate object. Voronoi scale to 3.5. Duplicate the color ramp up. Connect the down noise factor to the up color ramp factor. Connect the color ramp color to roughness. Adjust the sliders to your likeness. Make it a bit see-through by changing the transmission to 0.91. I'm going to change the base color to light blue. I want the object origin point to be at the bottom, so let's do that by selecting the bottom of the crystal and press Shift S and choose cursor to selected. Go to object mode. In object. Set origin. Chose origin to 3D cursor. I want a few variations of this crystal, so I'm going duplicate crystal and move it aside. In edit mode duplicate the crystal and move it to the other side. I'm going to scale it down a bit. Duplicate it one more time in object mode and in edit mode select the smaller crystal and duplicate it to the opposite side. Create one more collection. I'm going to name it crystal_y. Add another icosphere. Assign the same crystal material. Click on that 4 you see near the name tag to make a duplicate of material. Just gonna change the base color to white. Add a new particle system to the cylinder. Change the emitter to hair and under render set the render as to collection. Chose the crystal_blue as instance collection. Tick object rotation and pick random. Change the pivot point to individual origin and rotate the crystals in 90° on y-axis. I'm going to scale it down and increase the hair length. You can set this to your likeness. Let's add one more particle system to the cylinder. This time set the crystal_white as instance. Repeat the same settings from blue crystal. In Geometry node add a Transform node and move the Geometry node modifier to first. Before we move on add a material to the cylinder itself. Change the principal shader to Transparent shader. Finish the rest of the star shape. Add a keyframe at the start and then go to the end of your animation. I'm going to set the rotation on Z-axis to 720°. You can increase or decrease the rotation until you get the right speed. Now let's create this lightning effect. Add a cube. Go to edit mode. Align the vertexes to the star's left flat wing. Select the right face. Extrude it to the star's top. Align it correctly. Continue this process. Select the down and the top faces. Right-click to open the special menu. Choose Bridge Faces. Scale it down in Y-axis. In Geometry node editor. Between group input and output. And a distribute point on faces node. Set the density to 0.5 and the C to 8. Add an instance on points between distribute point and output. Add a curve line. Plug it to instance. Make the end a bit shorter by setting the Z to 0.1. Add a set position node next to instance on points. Now we want the lightning to interact with the background. I'm gonna set up a quick background. Add a new collection. I'm gonna name it background. Select your background. Drag and drop it to the collection. Drag and drop the collection to the geometry node editor. Change it from original to relative and tick reset children. Drag out from the geometry. Get realize instance. Add a geometry proximity node and realize instance geometry to target. Add a endpoint selection node. Selection to selection on the set position node. Set the endpoint to 0. Geometry proximity position to position on the set position node. And now if we add the realize instance node between instance on points and set position node, the curve's end will snap onto the objects on the background collection. Now let's give it a bit movement. Add a noise texture near our collection info. Add a vector math. Change the type to subtract. Connect the factor to vector. Set the all three socket values to 0.5. Duplicate the vector math and change the type back to add. Connect the output vector to source position on geometry proximity. Connect the subtracts output to add's second vector saw. Add a position node. Connect the position output to add's first vector saw. Change the noise dimension to 4D. Add a math node and change the type to divide. Connect the value to noise textures W. Add a sense time and connect it to the divides value. By turning up the value you can control the speed of the movement. I'm going to set it to 50. Now I'm gonna add a bit distortion to the curve. Add a resample curve node after set position. Change the count to length. This is the distance between the vertexes on the curve. Add another set position node after the resample curve. Duplicate the add, the noise texture, the subtract and move it down. We want the sense time on the duplicated divide too. Change the scale to 1.7 and the detail to 10. I'm gonna lower the divide value to 1. Duplicate the divide to left. And change the type to add. Add an accumulate field below the divide. Connect the leading to add node. Change the point to spline. Connect the subtract vector to set positions offset. Add the vector math node again and change the type to scale. This will let you control the distortion of the curve. I'm gonna set the value to 0.83. Add float curve. Set the start and end to 0 and the middle to 1. Add a spline parameter and connect the factor to float curve's value. Duplicate the scale and change the type to multiply. Connect the float curve to the multiply. I want control the number of lightning distribute on the object. For that add a delete geometry node before the resample curve. Add a compare node. Change the float to integer. Add a index node and connect it to A on the compare node. 12 lightning seems nice to me. Let's add bit flickering to the lightning by adding a delete geometry node before resample curve. Add a math node and connect it to the delete geometry. Change the type to greater than. Connect the first noise texture to the greater than math node. Set the value to your likeness. I'm going to set it to 0.45. Add a curve to mesh before the output. Add a curve circle. Connect the curve circle to profile curve on the curve to mesh. Set the resolution 3 and the radius to 0.01. Add a new material. Change the principle to emission and set the strength to 22. Change the color to light blue. I recommend render the lightning in Eevee. At last add a set material and chose the lightning material. Create a new collection. Name it lightning/smoke. Rename the lightning cube to lightning. Drag it to the collection. Now let's create this smoke. Duplicate the lightning cube, rename it to smoke. Go to modifiers and delete the geometry node modifier. In edit mode, I'm going to select the inside of the star shape and scale it in a bit. Go to object, quick effect, and chose quick smoke. Move the cube to behind the star's reference. Move the smoke to inside the domain. Go to physics properties. Tick initial velocity and set the surface emission to 0.5. And in domain properties tick dissolve. Change the time to 10. Tick the noise. Set the start to which frame you the smoke simulation to begin and the end to which frame you want the simulation stop and hit bake. There you go. I hope you guys learned something new, and if you have any suggestion comment down below. Until then, sayonara.